Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. Really excited to have Joe Balestrino on today. He is a phenomenal expert as it relates to marketing. He's got over 2 decades of experience. And in the last handful of years, he's really dialed in on the pest space, which is great because most of the audience is either in home service or the pest space. And so I think that there's a lot of things and tips that he'll be able to share as it relates to our companies or us as employees, or how we can keep those leads constantly coming in. This episode, as they all are, it's brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control. We're growing. 2023 has started out. We're here nearly at the end of January. So far, it's been the best January that we've ever had, and we're excited about that. We're growing and we're continuing to grow. Part of the way that we're doing that is via acquisition. And so if you find yourself in any of the markets that Moxie happens to be in, we've got 35 locations across the country, and you're considering knowing or thinking about what the next steps or chapter or phase of your life may look like outside of pest control and want to divest, please give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd love to talk to you about that. My cell phone is 480-254-9730. And my direct email is aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. Joe Balestrino, we just got connected a few days ago, had a great conversation as we were kind of prepping for this podcast. I'm excited about some of the things that he'll share as it relates to marketing at all sizes of your business. You may be a one-man shop. You may have 5 trucks on the road. You may have 105 trucks on the road. But some of the things that he'll share will help us to be able to understand the importance of diversifying, if you will, our marketing budget, not going all in on one thing that works, because it may work, but the second an algorithm changes or Google updates something, then you go from many leads to very few. And so you want to have a very robust marketing strategy. Joe, really glad to have you on the show. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm a fan of the show, and it's kind of surreal being on. I thank you for that. You and I were talking, and I like how you stated where no matter where you are in your pest control journey, there's always pain points. When you're first starting out, you're trying to do it all. And then you get to a point at somewhere along the course of growing your business where you kind of just get stale, right? You just kind of flatline a little bit. You're not growing, but you're not declining, but you're not inclining, And so to me, it's always trying to understand, when I talk to business owners in the space, to figure out, what are they doing well? What are they not doing well? Having conversations with them. A lot of pest control owners don't know where their leads are coming from, where the best leads are coming from. And if they do get money, where to put the money. And so it may be like a good place to start is kind of understanding, not focusing in. Like I told you prior to starting the show, I had worked with a company out in California where all their leads were coming from Yelp. And then one day Yelp suspended their page, and then everything just stopped. And if you're focusing on just one channel, SEO is doing really well for you, or Facebook ads is doing really well for you, one change, and then it can all go away. And then you don't have anything to fall back on, and you don't want to rely. It's like talking to pest control companies who say, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years and we just get referrals. But how do you scale? Like at some point as a business owner, you want to say, I'm here and I want to get here. Where am I spending money that's getting me a good ROI, so I know where to put my money in, so I know, to get to where I want to go?
One of the things, Joe, that you said that was kind of shocking to me before, as we were prepping, is that, you said a lot of companies, and it's not just like one-man shops, but a lot of companies don't even know where their leads are coming from per se, because they're not tracking their phone calls. And I just need to say that it doesn't matter if you're a one-man shop or more. You need to, every single phone call that comes either to your cell, to your your office manager or whoever, you need to know where they're, not only do you need to know if they're an existing customer and what their issues are and why they're calling, but especially as it relates to marketing, you need to know what keywords are hitting. If you're doing any paid type advertising, you need to know if it's coming from from Yelp. You need to know if it's coming from a flyer that you put out there or a promo that you put on Facebook. And so there are so many free resources as it relates to Instagram, Facebook. I mean, having a YouTube channel or whatever it may be, your vehicle, your uniform, coupons, I mean, flyers, whatever you want to call it. But you need to know where they're coming from, and you need to A/B and split test. I would think some of those offers and some of those images and some of those colors to see what performs best, so that you have data to be able to say, hey, this campaign, whatever it may be, went really well. Hey, this one didn't go very well. I'm going to adjust the copy a little bit, or I'm going to keep the copy the same, but I'm going to adjust the offer and see what happens. And so please, if you're listening, you must be tracking your calls, especially your marketing calls, and find out where they are coming from. Why do you think it is, Joe? I mean, is it just a little bit extra work and that's why people aren't doing it? Or is it intimidating? I mean, as you've had hundreds of discussions and phone calls, and as you've queried LinkedIn, and I know you're very active there, why are more people or firms not doing that?
I think either they don't see, I think for the most part, they don't see the value in it because they don't know how to use it. So you gave a good example. Like if you're doing marketing materials, I've worked with companies where, they have the little door hangers where they go around the neighborhoods, ringing doorbells, and you have that little hanger and you put it on the door, but you can put a tracking number on there so that if you spent $3,000 going around a neighborhood and putting door hangers up, you want to know a couple of things. You want to know how many people called, how much business was generated from that, how long from when you left the door hanger until they called. Was it the next day? Was it a week? Was it 2 months down the line? And then having that, and then you can determine, like you said, in this neighborhood, we spent this much and we got these results. Could we improve it? Maybe we changed the offer. Maybe we changed the colors. Maybe it was the neighborhood. But if you're not tracking, then you really don't know, where, if everybody's calling the same number, then you have no way of knowing, were those door hangers effective or were they a waste of money? If they were a waste of money, then we throw money somewhere else. But if you're just guessing, then you don't know. And even with call tracking outside of just marketing, I've worked with businesses where they weren't sure who was handling, how the calls were being handled. I've spoken to businesses in the past where the owner would listen in and they didn't like the way that the person on the other end was handling the calls, their attitude, their tone. They're telling people, oh, if you want a quote, go to the website, but they were calling to get the quote. So you're pushing them off. You're turning away business essentially when you do that. And then sometimes you get to listen in and hear things that you wouldn't normally hear, especially if you're not handling the phone calls of typical concerns or complaints that customers had that you're not privy to. Now you have that insight, to see more into your business and how it's being handled, because, there's a few ways you can grow your business. Sure, you can get more leads, but if you can retain the customers you have long-term or improve customer service or whatever you can learn from listening to those phone calls, there's value in that. And I don't think you should discount that because you don't see the initial value in it. At this time, it's not expensive. It's not like a huge charge. It's not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars a month.
Well, and you also, Joe, bring up a really incredible point in that listening to the call. And right now, it's the very last day of January as we're recording this. You out there, you may hear this at the end of February, first part of March, but there's no excuse to not be listening to your calls. You may not be able to listen to every single one of them, but you could listen to maybe 2 just general calls that come in and 2 calls from leads that came in as the owner or as the inside sales lead or whatever your role is inside of the organization. And that is what I call a leading indicator. So like our close rate on the back end is kind of a lagging indicator. We can improve our close rate on our leads that are coming in by doing things like listening to phone calls as the owner did that you were kind of talking about, and maybe their tone wasn't quite right, or maybe they were pushing them off because they called to get a quote and they were like, hey, you can do that on the website. That's like against everyone's religion that's trying to, you know what I mean, market and grow a company. Like if there's a prospect calling in to get a quote, give them the quote and close the deal right there on the phone, right? But there's much that you can glean and learn from listening to just even a call a day about how your customers, what the quality of the prospect is, where it's coming from, and then how your people internally are doing to be able to convert that, because it's expensive. Marketing is very expensive. And if your operations isn't dialed in, then it becomes even more expensive because you're working with a 30 or 40% close rate rather than a 50 or 60 or 70 or 80% close rate. And so the better that you can give information to your people to train them, to have them close these deals at a higher contract value or ticket price or whatever it may be, then it makes your marketing more affordable. Where, Joe, do you suggest people start? I mean, everyone's on a budget. I think that people going into 2023 are still relatively optimistic. There's been a lot of, talk of a recession. Maybe we won't feel that completely this year, but soon we probably will. Where do you suggest people start when they start getting into marketing?
I think most people start with either no marketing or starting out testing marketing. I've seen pest control companies still advertise on Craigslist, right? So maybe you're starting out on Craigslist posting, people still do that, usually companies that really don't have a great online presence. But you always want to, the biggest problem or the biggest issue I see is people want to test with very little money, right? They want to run Google ads on $20 a day. The problem there is, $20 a day, your cost per click might be $10. So you're going to run out of budget before the day is even over. Your ads are not going to show all the time. And then at the end of 30 days, you're going to come to the conclusion that Google ads didn't work, but it wasn't that it didn't work. It just, you didn't invest enough time to get the data, because Google ads is all about data, right? There's thousands of ways people are searching for pest control, but there's probably only, 50 or 60 or so that work for your business specifically. And you want to dial those in. And once you have that, sure, the first month or two, your cost per lead will be high, but as you dial it in, you're listening to phone calls, you're adding negative keywords, that cost comes down. Now you have something that you can scale. You open up another location, you want to service another neighborhood, you kind of have the outline of what's been working for you, and you just duplicate that. And then once you're in a positive ROI, then you want to move to something else. Maybe you want to do Facebook ads, maybe you want to do door hangers, whatever it is. I think, when you're making money is the time to invest, to try something else. But I think if you get comfortable in whatever was working for you right now, I can tell you in the 20 years I've been doing this, nothing lasts forever, right? Google will have an update, your map listings will go nowhere, or you're ranking locally and then competitors come in and take you out, or, Google ads performance drops and the cost per click goes up or the cost per lead goes up. And then, you got to cut back on that. So to me, it's being more diversified, and, companies that are, I noticed that companies that are more active in the community, tend to get more business. So it doesn't always mean you have to spend money. You can just show up at an event or help out a food drive or something like that, where it gets your name out, because I think pest control companies don't realize that they are part of the community, right? Join the Facebook group, be a participant, ask questions, where I live, every time I need a service, a handyman or something, I'm in the Facebook group asking for recommendations. And if you're a participant there, people say, oh, Fred, he's in pest control. He did my service at my house or my business. And then you kind of build on that. So you don't always need money. It's just, finding out, where you can have the biggest impact. And usually for me, I noticed that pest control companies that are just starting out, that being part of the community helps get their business, moving, gives them momentum.
Awesome. As you've worked with dozens and dozens of, pest control owners over the last handful of years, give us a little more of what you were saying. So, what are they doing that some of us may not be doing that's helping them to have success? One of the things that I just heard is that they're involved in the community, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're sponsoring the Little League for $3,000 and then also the high school for $3,500. It just means that you're there and you're involved. What other things have you noticed as a pattern, Joe, are some of the best doing as it relates to marketing?
Well, the ones that do the best are the ones that test, right? They're always trying different things. They're trying to expand. They're trying to explore different areas. They're partnering up with other companies, with realtors. Like there's always a way that you can reach out to businesses where one hand washes the other. Usually realtors, they deal with people who need inspections. And if you got, you're working with someone who can refer you business, that's great. Many pest control companies do have a referral business where, somebody refers them business, they give them a little kickback, which might be a good way to kind of get yourself out there where to get people to work for you. So I see a lot of that going even with bigger companies where they offer, even customers referral for referring friends. And then some of them even give a discount to the person who did the referral as a thank you. So that keeps the loyalty one thing that we do for our customers is when we get a positive review, like when someone does a service, there's a process where we ask for a review. And if they leave a review, then we ask them if they would refer a friend, or is there anybody they know that would need the service? Because, it doesn't cost them anything. And if they're happy with the service, usually they're happy to refer a neighbor or anything like that. One thing I want to mention is when you're first starting out, I think one of the most important things you can do is to make sure whatever truck you're using does have some information of your business, right? Because I know myself in my neighborhood, unfortunately, I'm very nosy with my neighbors, and I can see who's getting work done and see the truck or to do landscaping. There's a landscaper that comes every week like clockwork to my neighbor's house. And, one day I just looked at the truck and just called from my window to see, what they had to offer, or talk to my neighbor to find out what they had done and how they, they see the service. Obviously, if they're there all the time, then they must be doing good work. So I think free promotion, going out to the local coffee shop, taking a photo in front of your truck, asking people, hey, here's I like this drink here. What do you guys get for breakfast in this area? Like to spark that conversation, but to get the awareness out and to do things that, even like the big companies aren't doing, but the smaller companies are trying to catch on and to get, get more exposure on social media to go viral, so to speak.
Well, and not to mention, as it relates to the vehicle, you have to have a vehicle to do your pest work, your garage door work, your HVAC work, whatever it may be anyway. And so invest just a little bit more, paint it, or have a good vinyl package put on there, put your phone number on it in huge letters, right? Maybe have a special offer, like a tailgate offer or something that you can offer right then and there. Some of the things that makes me crazy, but when I see some of these vehicles either on the road or at my neighbor's house, they also list like every single service that they do. And it's like font size 12. And it's like, no one's going to be able to read. Like they need to know like the core of your business, big letters, pest control or HVAC or whatever it is, and the phone number. Consumers can figure out the rest, but they need to know how to reach you. And so then they'll start to associate your van or your truck or your logo or logo mark or whatever else with the color, with the phone number, with the line of work that you're in. And then just like you said, when you're looking out the window or you see them on the freeway or whatever it may be, then you when you do have that need, whatever it is, then you think to call and there's the number right there. What do you see, Joe? Like, what are some of the things maybe coming down the pipeline in 2023? Meaning, so TikTok it's been around for a handful of years now, but it's becoming, I feel like in just like the last quarter or 6 months, it's kind of blown up for businesses. I think it's been pretty hot the last couple of years for individual consumption or, that sort of thing. but businesses now seem to really be grasping TikTok. Is there anything like that you see that may be either up and coming or that is a hot thing right now?
I did a poll on LinkedIn and I asked pest control owners, what channel do they get most of their leads from? And it was almost neck and neck between Facebook and LinkedIn. And I thought LinkedIn was surprising because LinkedIn is usually business to business, not necessarily, B2C. So that I thought was really interesting. And with social media, when you talk social media, what I find that is I think a lot of pest control companies miss is when you're on social media and you're a regular person and you're scrolling, the last thing you want to see is a rat in a trap, somebody holding, a whole bunch of dead rodents or, showing off. Now, if your business is, if all your friends are following you and there are other pest control people, they may think that's cool. But, for the average person, they're not going to follow a pest control company who's just showing like dead bugs and stuff like that. So you have to come across more professional. You can give them tips, provide value. I mean, that's really what you want to do, but try to keep it to where you want to stay in their feed, because if they don't stay subscribed, they're not going to be in front of you. That's why I said earlier, taking photos in front of the local coffee shop, using hashtags for your town so people can discover you, then they'll follow you. But if every picture is you with a dead rat or a dead possum, people are going to just not follow you. The only people you're going to have following you is your competition, and that's not what you want.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up about social. I mean, you look at so many Instagram pages or Facebook pages, and there's these images that are disgusting, frankly, that maybe as a technical person or a technician inside of a pest control company, you can appreciate that or the work that you did. But your ideal customer is probably not really interested in seeing that. In fact, your ideal customer, they actually want to see the opposite of that. They want to see the absence of all of those rodents, all of those cockroaches, all of those. They don't want that. That's actually the problem that they've hired you to solve, to not see those things, to not have them. And the last thing they want is to see it on their feed when they're scrolling at night or at lunch or whatever. It's nasty.
I'm eating lunch and I'm scrolling through and I see a dead rat. It's like
you're unfollowing that so fast. You're like, no, not today, not for me.
And they don't get it. And I get taking pride in your work, which is awesome. It's like, it's nice to know like you were able to achieve what you achieved, but that's something you send a photo to your technicians you work with. That's not what you put on social media, because no one's going to want to follow that. So I think, to rethink if social media is where you want to be, and you want to be, because there's two ways people search, right? They know they need you. They're going to Google it. They're going to say, I need pest control in my area. Hopefully you pop up there and they get you. But the other way they're going to know is by associating your brand. And if you're in Facebook groups and they're following you on social, you'll say, hey, springtime mice come out, be prepared. Like some friendly reminders, not, we caught 50 mice at this, ranch house, whatever. You're not going to get business that way.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, Joe, this has been great. I mean, I definitely want to give you the last word, and as we sort of start to wind it down a little bit, what advice do you have for home service operators, pest control, operators, if you will, as far as your hot take on marketing in 2023? What advice do you have for them? And then finally, how can people connect with you? You're very, very active on LinkedIn. Is there a website or a phone number that you could point them to if people want to continue the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So I think in 2023, right, when I spoke to some pest control companies, again, did a poll on LinkedIn, they're concerned about increasing gas prices and increasing cost of chemicals this year, right? So that's their main concern is pricing going up. So my advice to you is really get dialed in, spend the extra cash, do the call tracking, dial in your advertisements, because if you're doing something like Google Ads, if you just listen to the calls and you understand that pest control and pest control company, one is producing good leads and the other isn't, as soon as you stop spending money on that other term, you're going to now funnel all that money into the other keyword, and now you're going to get more sales. Your cost per lead is going to come down. So spend a little extra to kind of get things dialed in. If you're not doing tracking on your website, you don't have your Facebook pixel set up, go through that, hire somebody on Upwork or Fiverr to do that for you so that you have the data that you need to get that cost per click down, or the cost per lead, I should say, down, so that you can grow your business at a cheaper cost than just continuing to spend money and not being able to predict your marketing efforts going forward. And as far as contacting me, our website is digitalcontainment.com. I'm very proud of that name. Took me a lot of time to come up with that. And so you can reach out to me there. We offer, digital marketing experience, services, but really what we call ourselves is solution-based marketing. So what we like to do is we don't like pitch a service or you should do this, you should do that. We take a look at what you do from a marketing perspective, from your website to your marketing to your social, and find out where you can have the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time to get you into a positive state, positive, ROI, and then come up with a strategy going forward. I think over the last 20 years, I've kind of dialed in what works as far as strategy wise, but it all depends on that individual company, on what they're doing, because every company's different. Some companies do really well on one channel and not so much on another. So that's how you guys can reach me.
Wonderful. Joe, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate your time and your expertise and your perspective. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in as well. These drop every Thursday. And until the next one, create a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.